The architecture of all human laws, economics, and warfare relies on a single invisible variable, the locus of moral value. One framework is deontological ethics. It places intrinsic moral value on the act itself, regardless of what happens next. The opposing framework is teleological ethics. Here, moral value is determined by the outcome or consequence of an action. Deciding which of these nodes to prioritize determines the outcome of every legal trial, every economic policy, and every declaration of war. Utilitarianism is the most universal form of teleological ethics. As defined here, welfare, specifically happiness and pleasure, is the fundamental human good. The philosophy reached its classical stage with Bentham and Mill. Their secular rule achieved the greatest goodness for the greatest number. This approach attempts to remove abstract dogma from policy, making the law serve measurable human needs and interests. Under this framework, ethical decision-making becomes a comparative mathematical analysis of every available action to see which produces the most good. While this mathematical optimization appears elegant on paper, it requires that the value of an individual person be weighed against the welfare of the collective. Utilitarianism scales through two mechanisms. The first is act utilitarianism, judging individual actions in isolation based on immediate results. The second is rule utilitarianism, evaluating the long-term utility of standard societal rules, rather than analyzing single acts on the fly. Enforcing a highway speed limit is a concrete application of rule utilitarianism. It prevents a net loss of life over time, even if it delays and inconveniences specific individuals on their commute. Rule utilitarianism stabilizes society more effectively than evaluating single acts, but the underlying logic still views human beings as aggregate data points to be balanced on a ledger. The epistemic breaking point of pure consequentialism is the inability of humans to accurately predict long-term outcomes. As the literature notes, the theory essentially demands godlike powers of foresight. To judge an action, distinguish between intended, reasonably expected, and actual consequences. The paradox lies in actual consequences. Because one action causes cascading future events, the true outcome stretches into the indefinite future, impossible to measure in the present. Consider the hypothetical of Hitler's grandmother slipping on a staircase while carrying infant Adolf. Judging her immediate action of saving the child by its ultimate historical outcome is impossible at the moment the choice is made. Because human foresight is limited, a strictly outcome-based morality operates on incomplete data, leading to catastrophic systemic errors. This brings us to a conflict regarding justice. Look at this example of harsh punishments. If punishing an innocent person acts as a severe deterrent to overall crime, pure consequentialism justifies that unfair punishment for the greater good. Individual rights exist as the structural, deontological countermeasure engineered to block this utilitarian math. They are liberties and entitlements protected from outside infringement. These rights operate as natural law. They supersede democratic majorities and cannot simply be voted away by the collective. Philosopher Ayn Rand illustrated this anti-majoritarian concept clearly, arguing that 5 wolves and 1 sheep cannot vote on what to have for dinner. Specific rights, like the right to a fair trial or freedom from arbitrary arrest, act as hard boundaries. They are parameters that cannot be traded for collective security benefits. These rights act as engineered legal shields, specifically built to protect minorities from a utilitarian majority. Critiques of utilitarianism's instability extend beyond Western philosophy and into major theological frameworks, including Islamic viewpoints. A theological critique argues pure utilitarianism mistakenly places man above the law, relying on flawed calculation and a narrow definition of happiness. Tying morality strictly to the physical world results in relative morality. Without a universal standard, rules shift depending on the context. A system reliant solely on human calculation for optimal outcomes eventually collapses under the weight of its own subjectivity. Modern stable governance resolves this tension through a synthesis. It operates as a 2-level hybrid system. Utilitarianism is utilized to set our macro policy goals. We use it to maximize economic growth or deploy public health vaccination programs. However, deontological individual rights provide the guardrails that limit exactly how those utilitarian goals can be achieved. The utilitarian drive for the greatest good provides the engine that moves human society forward. But individual rights provide the vital brakes necessary to ensure the machine doesn't crush the people it was built to serve.